Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Anfield Index Under Pressure podcast. I'm hosting today. Dan's away on holiday. Great timing, Dan. I'm also feeling a bit under the weather, so apologies for my voice. But we have to go back over the game. The 1-0 defeat to Real Madrid. We've got the two sports scientists with us. How are you? We'll go to Phil first. How are you, Phil?
Yeah, not too bad. I think, a bit despondent, but I think, you look back at things and you think, fair enough. But yeah, I enjoyed the journey, and that's probably the best thing to take away from the season.
Process over outcome.
Yeah.
Si, you were there, mate.
Yeah, it was like, so just like in the past in Basel and Kiev, whatever, the trip was awesome. But with this one, obviously, it was a little bit more dramatic. The game itself, by the time they'd scored, pretty much half of the ground didn't care what happened.
Yeah.
And it was really sad.
Oh, yeah. So tell us what experiences you had then before the match. We'll do a little bit on this now before going into the game, because I think it's worth it with first-hand experience you've had.
So you guys would know, like I've been to Paris and around recently, and so I get the feeling of what the place is like, what's going on, and I'm perfectly aware that the local suburb of Stade de France is, let's say,
not great.
Yeah, it's a shithole. And sadly, I feel a lot for the people that are there. It's basically where the African immigrants get dumped by the French and shoved in tower blocks. So it has all of the sad state of social poverty and deprivation and stuff you have there, which leads to the massive crime rates that you get with that kind of stuff. And it feels like it. They've tried to pimp it up because they've got, apart from Stade de France, they're right in the midst of building the Olympic Park there, and so they've got probably about 4 or 5 high-rise buildings, tried to make it look corporate, and shits on a building everywhere, which leads to loads of road closures, traffic, road works, and building of infrastructure and train lines and stuff, which sadly over the course of the weekend left to a significant number of metro routes and stations being closed. Which is really important when you consider UEFA put our fan park 13 kilometres away from the stadium. And wow. The concert was 3 until 6, leaving 3 hours to get 13 kilometres over one of the busiest cities in the world, which our fans did incredibly well. Yeah. But also didn't help with the issues that we had, because one train station came up into the massive concourse of people, of which they had created a bottleneck, and it was a 2-meter wide path for ostensibly 15,000 fans to squeeze through, and a whole bunch of locals. So it was kind of scary. But that's kind of jumping ahead. I took my 14-year-old, which was amazing. We had a road trip down, got the Eurotunnel. We left at like 6 on Friday morning, and road trip, Eurotunnel at lunchtime, straight down the amazing toll roads of France to Paris at 85 miles an hour, perfectly legally, into Paris. It was great. We arrived at like 4:30. Met up with Gags and who was staying in our hotel, and the awesome Steve P. And then Cam was staying in our place as well. We went out for dinner. Jess and I had this because I've been before. I was aware of the awesomeness of electric scooters around Paris. So we quickly went and scuttled ourselves and found one, which is illegal with 18. You have to be 18 to ride one, but you know. So it's a scooter, for God's sake. So he humped on in training mode, limited to 12 kilometers an hour, and trekked away around Paris, and he had an absolute blast. Up to Montmartre, ice cream, all the good stuff.
Nice.
And then met the boys in a bar that Gags had arranged, where he continued to have the time of his life, belting out Bobby Firmino and Sadio songs at top of his voice, which Gags videoed all over and shared to the world while we're eating. So first day was absolutely tremendous. Second day, pimping away around Paris, go to the Eiffel Tower, which the police had already sent out a warning saying they weren't allowing fans anywhere near the district that the Eiffel Tower is on, which set my spidey senses ablaze at this point. Already Friday night.
And any justification for that? Is that just
absolutely none?
Wow.
Absolutely none. In the whole time we were in Paris, didn't feel remotely intimidated by anybody. The Liverpool fans outnumbered Real fans probably 8-1.
Blimey.
That might be an understatement. Reds everywhere, just having a great time. It was sunny. Everybody was having a great time. And around the Eiffel Tower, and then gradually over to Notre Dame and up east to eventually the fan park, which everyone had congregated on this piazza, this big roundabout in the east side of Paris, right next to. I thought that was a fan park, but apparently. We could see over the top of some people and then some trees that there were a few white tents, and then right at the top, you could see right at the top of a big video screen. We arrived there at 2:30-ish, because the messaging was all that it was from 1. It opened at 12 and it was from 1. Didn't realise that the actual Jamie Webster stuff wasn't starting until 3. Anyway, it was a great atmosphere. There was pyro going on, tens of thousands of Scousers, having a crack, singing a song, drinking some beer in the sun, kicking a ball around, climbing some fountains. There wasn't a street light in the area that wasn't scaled at some point and had photos taken on. It was awesome.
This sounds amazing, doesn't it? This sounds what it should be like.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, we were there for 20 minutes, and we kind of figured by the end of the 20 minutes that people seemed to be queuing for something, in maybe in the 10 people wide queue, and the queue was massive. I just thought it was where people were congregating. Then I realised that there was a fence there, and they weren't letting anybody into the fan park until right before the 3:00 concert kicked off. And it turned out we left. We didn't bother hanging around. We left before the concert. Got in an Uber, and 10 minutes into that, they're looking on Twitter, and they're Neil Jones and people were starting to post photos from the stage, and there were 20,000 people inside the fan park, alongside the 15 or 20,000 people that were on the roundabout. So they weren't not letting people in; they were already in. There was no room for anybody. It was absolutely jacked full, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It is, and the atmosphere is totally electric. Jess was having the time of his life at this point. I've since retrospectively seen videos of the police digging out 3 goons and a whole bunch of boxes of electrical and engineering equipment from manholes about a block, so maybe 200 meters away from the fan park, which was a little bit worrying. There's rumors it was some kind of terrorism. It was very dodgy. They were being arrested one way or the other, and nobody talked about it. So that was. I'm kind of glad we got away from that for sure. And then we headed over, went back to the hotel, got all changed and everything, met up with Gags and Cam, and wandered up to. I like being at the stadium early because I want to see like the lads arrive. I love watching the warm ups.
I was going to say, you love watching the warm up, right?
Yeah. Put him.
You like watching the warm up, right? Like a normal.
Absolutely. Yeah? I've got probably 1,000 videos of different teams warming up.
Yeah.
And
of course you have.
Yeah.
I think that's normal.
Think I'm weird. I'm there videoing the opposition's warm up.
That's normal, side. Don't take it from Rhodes, all right?
I love it. No, I'm the same. I've got to watch the warm up, so I love it. We all do. It's the analytical side, but size profession as well.
Yeah. There's always some ideas to steal. I'm not like there to mock the Barcelona's warm up. They're amazing. Like just because they warm up in an unconventional way to the methods that we see in England, it doesn't mean to say it's not best practice. It's just not the same stuff we use. So I'm more than happy to nick drills from anybody. Anyway, so because of that, we met really early and went up to the park at 6. Also, alongside, Jesse had seen like they were pushing the UEFA were pushing you have to have the UEFA app to be in the stadium. So we downloaded the UEFA app. He was looking around it, and it said Jesse loves tech, and it said that there is table delivery basically. So if you sit at your seat. Take a photo of the QR code of the seat in front of you. You can order food and it will be delivered to your seat while you're during the game. Nice. And it's deliveries continue until an hour after the game's finished. That's what it said. So he was full on excited. He's going to get this table service of amazing food. So we'd barely eaten all day. Deliberately, we're going to get this great food at the stadium because of ridiculously expensive tickets, and it was all Champions League final. So we went early, expecting to get food and all this stuff. Thankfully, we got early, so we kind of missed the police trouble. But already walking, we were a kilometre away, just like literally straight up our street, just one straight line up to the stadium from our hotel. And it already felt shady on the way up. There were no police around, but loads of like dodgy gangs. We got alerts on our phone about pickpocketing and mugging going on. And I've got my 14-year-old boy who's yet to grow. He's a little lad.
Yeah.
And in his shorts and his shirt. So we got there, forgot completely that maybe we should be wearing more clothes than that because it's kind of cold. But you're not allowed to take a bag in, which was the other thing. So thankfully we got in, took our pictures with Gags and Cam, got to the process of you get funneled up. Everyone's seen the pictures of the concourse now, where everyone got wedged in. At 6 o'clock, there was no police vans blocking that entrance. They were down the side. So welcoming everybody in their intimidating way, but they haven't driven across at that point. So there was the full width of the concourse to walk up and get your tickets checked. It was that pen thing. So they were doing the little highlighter pen on the corner of your ticket to see if, I don't know, to show if it was real or fake or whatever. I'm not sure what they were looking for. But we had ours. It was checked. The nice girl checked ours. We went through. We got patted down once and then had to empty the bag out, which my kid has because he's allergic to the world. And so he's got all sorts of allergy medicines in there. And we'd also got his phone battery, which we checked on the ticket. It said phone batteries up to the size of a phone are welcome. Okay, so we wandered around. We got shuttled down the left-hand side of the stadium where the concourse got really narrow. And I was like, I don't understand how these stadiums are built this way. It's like they get built and then they go, oh, where should we put fans? So it's such a weird feeling. And there was no trouble at this point, but it feels like there were an inconvenience. And the way they'd set up barriers was like Alton Towers, where they're just trying to kill time. When they've got 12,000 people. Snakes.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we got up to the next row of security, which were the bag checks, full bags emptied out, and Jesse got and we got like searched. And the guy like properly body searched Jesse for well over a minute. I was at one point going to report him for being a pedo. It felt weird, but
that is weird.
He then got. It was weird. I got searched for like, where they pat your arm, pat your leg, and go, good job. And it was like 5 seconds. And then this guy, I'm not exaggerating, it was well over a minute. But anyway, he eventually got his bag and got his battery out and said he's got to give this in. Like, what? Where? And there was a security booth with loads of these batteries in that we had to give in and get a number. And I made a joke to the security guard who patted me down, going, it's on the ticket, we're allowed. And the guy went, yeah, I know, sorry, dude, sorry, mate. This is France. Okay,
right,
different rules. Okay.
Well, that kind of played out. Carried on playing out, didn't it?
Yeah. So we scuttled off in, and we went inside. There was barely anybody there at that stage. The people that were there were having a good time. We wandered up the stairs, big wide open concourse of stairs, and inside it was, it's comfortable enough. And there was nobody getting food or anything. So we kind of looked at the options. We sat down. Jesse looked at the options of food, ready to order his food. There were 2 things, right? I was like, yeah, let's just go. So we went to the actual kiosk thing. The food was minging. Nobody wants that stuff. There were 2 sandwiches that were absolute filth. Nobody was delivering. Nobody was ordering. It was all made up bullshit. But while we're there, like this getting our sandwiches, there was like a couple of people like sprinted to the back of the concourse so they could see outside. And one guy, we didn't see this. I didn't know what was going on. One guy, he threw his jacket at his mate and sprinted out down the stairs to go and like get into a fight or something. That's what it seemed like, that somebody was going to rumble. And like people were joking around, going, "Yeah, he's up for a fight or something." Turned out that he wasn't at all. He was going to try and pull the police off from beating one of his mates that he'd come in with.
Wow. Even that early on, Si?
So this was
10
past 7 maybe. So there was already trouble then. At 7:45 maybe, that there was I think it was one of the TV show presenters had posted on Twitter that he'd never been more terrified in his life. He was going in through gate U, and it felt really intimidating. And he doesn't know what's going on, but he was terrified for his life. And I was reading this on Twitter, going, "What?" It was a bit weird. And sat around us, maybe it was about 60% full. There were big
empty spaces.
Yeah. There were big blocks in rows of like 6 seats together, obviously mates or whatever, that weren't in, all over the place. And it felt really weird. But the Real Madrid, right at their end, that they were all in. It was all white, and they were the lower 2 tiers of the Real Madrid thing. It was full. They were properly all in and singing. And then dotted around, there were reds all the way around the bowl. So more than 3/4 of the stadium had reds in, and only just the bottom tier of the north stand had full white. And I was like, this feels weird. And then people started
going mental.
Yeah. And then people started to talk about like not being able to get in. What are you going on about? And gradually the game started getting closer and closer. We got distracted because the boys were out, and then the panic over Thiago not playing because it was very obvious he was warming up separately. And Naby then moved. He had a chat with Klopp. Naby started to go join in with the first team. First team's warm up. So we're all like properly concentrating on that and panicking. And then that alert came up on the screen. The game is being postponed by 15 minutes because Liverpool fans have been late in. And we were like, oh my God, well, that's because you put it 13 kilometres away. And then a couple of lads who were just on the concourse came up going, no, you should see this outside. And you could see, because it's all open, if you go on the concourse, you could just see straight out to the gate and see what craziness was going on there. And it was mental. And it took about 20 minutes of different looking at Twitter and seeing like Gary Lineker and all sorts, and Kelly talking about how like scary it was. And the second set of 15-minute delays, And then all of a sudden there was a rush of Reds coming in their droves. These two huge lads, like 6'5", probably 16 or 18 stone, not big fat guys, but bouncing, big guys. Yeah. Separate ones. One was sat in front of me, one was sat 2 rows behind, with a pop band. I can't remember the name. They're famous, but I don't know who they are. I think it might have been their security or something. And one of them was bleeding on his arm, and his face was absolutely ashen. He'd been crying, and he was like, "They sprayed us." Like, what? And they were like talking. They're like getting angry. Their mates were, because of their treatment, and then the stories started to come out of what was going on out there. Like the police were battering them and tear gassing. And we're like, oh my God. And there was like a shock descended over the end.
How was your boy at this point?
Oh, no, he was still busy worrying about Thiago, but he noticed the guy's bleeding arm, and so he got a little bit. He was like, I don't understand what's going on, because he doesn't correlate this.
Yeah.
Hillsborough's, it's not real. Yeah. Football violence is not real.
Yeah.
That's good though. In some ways, that's good.
Yeah. It's real now.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was lots of talk of this, and then the fans kind of shook it off. There was the weirdest thing, right? You'll Never Walk Alone, which at Anfield, at Champions League nights, the Anfield, the crowd, the tannoy starts at 5 minutes before it usually does. So they get You Never Walk Alone in before the Champions League noise comes on. But often it gets sung over, and they try to avoid it getting sung over. It started, they did it 20 to 8. So there was a massive You'll Never Walk Alone while the players were in the tunnel, were inside in the changing room. So the players never got to hear it. And then it never happened again. Then they put on the bloody concert. All the fans were furious because the game had been delayed half an hour, and they still put the concert on 5 minutes before the second delayed kickoff was supposed to occur. So, there was just...
I wondered that myself. It just seemed pointless, didn't it?
Oh, God. And so everybody was singing... I've seen the TV since. I can't believe I can't believe how well they managed to mask it. Because you can totally hear the concert, and you can barely hear the fans. You can hear that they're making a noise, but you can't. In the stadium, you literally couldn't hear her.
Yeah.
Wow.
You couldn't hear the music. It was We Love Jurgen. It was Jurgen's song, banging as loud as I've ever heard the Anfield crowd. It was unbelievable. The atmosphere for the first 20 minutes was absolutely unbelievable, electric, and it gradually started to wilt. As we get into the game, it changed, but quickly after the game, everyone's devastated. Not really. I wasn't devastated, but Jesse was kind of, he was properly gutted.
Yeah.
We were a bit. I think it was melancholy by that stage, but people were so annoyed by what had gone on. 5 minutes before the end of the game, I saw you guys talk about it. I posted a video of at 85 minutes, these machine gun warriors came out and stood in a really menacing way right in front of our fans. The stewards didn't even get up at the other end. Yeah. And by that stage, the fans were just furious. It was just... I can't believe they're doing this. What are they doing to us? And out of if there were 20,000, I think there were probably close to 4,000 Liverpool fans, right? A lot of them are old. How many of those were at Hillsborough?
Yeah,
a lot.
There's a lot of Hillsborough action going on there.
Yeah.
And so we funneled out. We dashed off, right? And they'd closed three of the exits, so we were going down to the one single concourse which goes under a motorway. So you're in an underpass. A big, probably 80 meter long, 80 meter wide underpass that the police had closed off with their armored cars right across the end, stood with their tear gas in hand or machine gun in hand, all down one side and right across the end. So they filtered us in and then didn't let us out. Jeez. Jesse was sobbing at this point. I had 4 other kids right next to me. They were shaking. They were already upset because of the game, and they were shaking. They had no idea what was. The fans, in the most civilized, objectionary way, were asking the police what was going on. They were laughing or sneering at us, but literally laughing. And I was going, dudes, what are you doing? I couldn't believe the way that they were behaving towards. There was just no aggression from Liverpool fans at all. They just blocked us in, and the concourse, the underpass was like 12 feet high at the most, and it got these purple lights on. It was really low, really dark. If you're claustrophobic, you were going to pass out. Like, it felt really, really scary. It was the scariest moment of Jess's life for sure. And then after maybe 5 minutes of fans going, what are you doing? Like, women were crying and shouting out to the police, just let us out. Just let us out. Like, I had a woman in a wheelchair, like a 65-year-old blonde woman in a wheelchair being pushed by some guy, I'm fairly sure he's blind, but like of some other disability, was right near us. And they were being the fans were coming out of the stadium into this concourse, being shoved with nowhere to go. And so there was that feeling of the fact, like, it was getting higher because we were getting closer and closer and closer together. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible feeling. And once they moved one of the vans. So of the 80 meters wide, they moved 4 meters, so you could squeeze by one van. And then they'd set up down the side, so more of these machine gun policemen were for another 100 meters down the side of this road as we were trying to disperse. And on the other side of the road were all of these gangs that just started to walk amongst us as we were coming out. It was terrifying. And then we had another kilometre of walking down their main street of Saint-Denis, of where all of these little tabaks and stuff are, like these, it felt like The Wire.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, that was more than 5 minutes, but I'm kind of emotional.
No, absolutely.
No, mate. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted to know.
First-hand information, and you've given so much detail and colour and black.
And also, as a dad as well, you've given, as a father, you looked after your son. You know, that's important.
What can you do when your kid's there?
No, I know. I was saying to Rhodes, like, I chose not to take my son. And I think I made the right decision. But yeah.
Wow. Well, we've now quite discussed the football, and I'm just like, oh, this is such a secondary level of importance. But we've got a job to do, boys. So let's do it. Phil, fucking hell. I just can't imagine from that what that feels like. Phil, the lineups. Let's do the lineups.
So
all expected, really, wasn't it?
Pardon? As expected, yeah. I think we chatted on the preview pod, and we kind of pretty much said this was going to be the team if Thiago and Fab were fit. I kind of understand why Naby wasn't played in some regards. If Thiago wasn't fully fit, then you need to have that guy on the bench who can play that role. So yeah, I kind of got the lineup. We both said Konate to play centre half to help out, and I thought Konate was absolutely superb on the night. And the Real lineup, I think we got it spot on. Actually, I think what we said. So yeah, as predicted. And the way I think we both said, chatted towards the end of the preview pod, that they'd probably drop in and play a 4-1-4-1, which I think they pretty much started for the whole of the first half. So yeah, it was as planned. And I think Darth put in the chat, so I wouldn't have seen it, but at half time, not a bad first half, tactically. Yeah, it was pretty good.
From a science perspective, Phil, does the fact that it was delayed 30 minutes hinder either side in terms of coming out and having any kind of rhythm, because you plan your warm-ups for specific times, and then, was there anything caused that? Because the first 15 minutes were a little bit slow, weren't they? Both teams came.
I think so. What Si said as well, linking in with not hearing the right, like the anthems and that kind of stuff, and not hearing the buzz from the crowd a little bit, because they're all sort of audio cues, if you get what I mean. They had double warm up as well, which, I mean, you're not going to burn off loads of energy, but it's sort of, it is. You are scheduled for a kickoff time, so to move that, it's not by a lot, but it ended up being half an hour. For sure, it had an impact, but it was the same for both sides, right? It's just that for us, we we are more intense in our play and energetic. Real were never going to be, as we said in the preview, they're never going to press high. I think they had a couple of periods where they decided to go and do the high left press. Other than that, they just were happy to sit in and do that. So I'm not sure who would. I think it probably affected us more than them. So I might have a view on it, but I think it did affect us. But it was the same for both sides. It just, unfortunately, our style means that I think if we've got a start time, we plan for that. And then if we're slightly off from that, it could affect us more than other teams because of the way we normally start in those kind of games.
Crazy thing was that we, after 10 minutes of the delay, the players had obviously heard that it was going to be delayed even further, and the fans weren't. We were expecting it to come out after 15, but they extended obviously half an hour because there was trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So firstly, Liverpool players came out to go through another warm up all over again.
Second warm up. Yeah.
Not as an intense one, but just as a second top up warm up, because all of the reasons that you do warm up, the central nervous system, the blood flow, you're starting to all is gone. So you're trying to just reinvigorate that, but Real Madrid didn't.
I know.
No, not at all. Which I thought was interesting. But one factor in all of this that I'm not sure people consider at all, is that in that 30 minutes, that I'm not sure that they're shut off from the world entirely, right? And they had family. Some of them had family that were trapped. Yeah. I don't think people can totally consider how, like, these lads are human. And you've got friends and family, and they're great unknown of what's going on out there. And Real Madrid's fans were in, and Real Madrid's team and friends, they were on the other side. It was all Liverpool's entrance, Liverpool's fan entrance, and there was a bunch of journalists. But
it's spot on site. Thiago's wife was in trouble, wasn't she?
Yeah, exactly. Thiago's wife, Robbo's mates.
Well, so you sort of two key players there for us. One of them was, let's say, 80% fit. I don't know, put a number on it. And he's already worried about himself because he's already had to go and do a warm on his own. And then he finds out his wife's been in trouble getting in. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely spot on. They are human, and that does drip feed into it. So not only is it delayed, they've got all this stuff going on around them. And Matip's brother got refused with his sister-in-law pregnant. He's got tear gassed.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? You're absolutely spot on, aren't you? That feeds in because they all have the phones in the dressing room.
But beyond that, like, there's a press officer that's around.
Yeah.
There are people with their phones that will be getting information, but also that the team will know, or will have been told what's going on, why, without, and then what probably makes it worse is that some of these lads know, aren't our people in that coming in that gate?
Yeah.
So they won't have any information, but like suddenly. Are they all right?
Yeah,
it's got to be kind of terrifying.
So it was.
You'd imagine they don't have the phones, Phil, wouldn't you? They won't have the phones. I don't think, are they allowed to have the phones pre-match? Is it? I thought it was just.
I don't know.
You don't have your phone with you, but they with a 30-minute delay, it's possible, but I doubt it very much. But there will be staff around that do.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And then if you go out for the warm-up and you look up to where you're expecting your family to be and they're not there,
yeah,
it's going to trigger, isn't it?
Exactly.
What the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
I think there'll be some of the other players like Dixon Bonner or Kane that will be around, that will be in the warm-up areas and stuff, that will have access to their phones.
Yeah.
I think aside, I'm not disputing that, right? I'm not dismissing that. I'm just trying to think of some other angles that would have been affected, because strapping is limited in terms of its application, isn't it? Yeah. So if you've put it on for a start time of 8 o'clock and you're kicking off half an hour later and you've done 2 warm-ups, there's an argument to say that strapping's done, and it should have been redone, right? I'm just thinking little things that build into the psychology of a player, right? They're thinking about this. They're worried about families. They know their taping's not quite right. It's all
the nutrition,
the nutrition, the
liquid
peaks,
intake, all that stuff. Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
Worst case, it offsets them a little bit for sure.
Yeah, it all feeds into this not a perfect start. But having said that,
came out flying.
but they came out flying. I thought they were brilliant for the first 20 minutes, first half, but certainly the first 20 minutes, I thought we were all over them.
So let me bring in a match summary then, and we can then link it into the chances and the tactical setup in first half. Yeah, it on paper it looks incredibly dominant, doesn't it? 24 shots to 4, 9 shots on target to 2, 2 XG to 0.8 across the 4 models that we use. StatsBomb even had us up at 2.4 XG. But interestingly, and we were discussing this in the group earlier, we just had the one big chance and Real Madrid were awarded 3. Now, we can't quite work out, because of the lack of data and the fact that Opta don't do it in detail that from the source that we usually use, Fantasy Football Scout. Obviously, their goal is a big chance. But the other 2 are opportunities, because there's no big chance missed, because of their 4 shots, only the goal had any kind of value whatsoever. So, what do we think? Gag suggested a cross, guys. Did you suggest there was the Benzema?
I know exactly what it is.
Oh, go on then.
So it was the offside goal. So when Benzema went through, he had a touch inside, and I'm fairly sure that was the that was the problem. And then Valverde's shot was the big chance, which had 2 lads right in the way and double deflected twice that came back to Benzema. So that they had 2 of their big chances with the same chance that they got an offside goal from.
I did suspect that.
Can I also point out that during this move, it was the 42nd minute.
Yeah,
they had their first touch in the box.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's what we were talking about, isn't it? I thought we were utterly dominant. I mean, I've chucked in the past matches as we normally do for people to have a look at. I mean, it's a little bit difficult without the pressing to go with it, but it gives you an idea. I think that's pretty good structure from us in terms of
we'd had 14 touches in their box and 8 shots inside their box, and they had 1 before they had their first touch in there.
Yeah. And we'd had probably our best 2 chances in the first half. Yeah, easily.
You had the Moore one, which is a quality reaction save from Courtois, isn't it? Down to his left.
And the Mane down to his right onto the post.
And then the Mane one that he tips round. Tips onto the post.
Stuff.
Lucky it doesn't come back off him and go in.
I thought he was going to hit his back and go in, to be fair.
So lucky. They were so lucky. If you listen to them, it really... that Valverde was talking about how easy it was tactically. But Ancelotti talks about that knowing exactly how so it was easy to nullify us. They had the single greatest goalkeeping performance of all time in a Champions League final. It was the most shots saved in any Champions League match in history, and the highest XG face without conceding a goal. And 2 of those saves hit the post, one of which hit the post and should have bounced in off him and bounced over him. And one of them, and Mo's, when his save that came off his arm right near, it just grazed the post. It could have gone anywhere, and it just
gone to Mane.
And it was just luck that where it ended up.
Yeah. You've got the post shot XG as well, Si, and you've also done is it 4 games that he's had or something?
It's 3.5 post shot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which
you
is
mean
mind-blowing.
Didn't you write an article on it afterwards?
Me?
Did I?
Dan, yeah.
No, I haven't done an article, no.
There was in Top Guest Times.
Oh, Bees has done Bees did that one, yeah.
Okay, so literally it was like 2 hours after I posted that, the 5 the Courtois faced post-shot XG of 3 or more 5 times in the last 5 years, and he conceded 4, 4, 3, 3, and 2 in those. And then against us, none. And we had the second highest post-shot XGs ever faced.
Yeah, it's I mean, the non-shot is 2.8, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, which 0.7 difference, so maybe a little bit in there. But no, Courtois was, I don't know what he was on. It's one of them, you know, we always used to face Burnley and their keeper would play amazing. and we wouldn't score.
Mo had the most shots ever in a Champions League final on target.
I don't know how he didn't score. He also had the other one that he tipped around the post that was going in the corner.
Unbelievable! That was an unbelievable save.
Unbelievable shot as well.
What?
Yeah.
We're a stats show here, right? But what was his best save?
Do you know what? Let's do two things. In terms of an individual save, I'd say one of the Mo ones, right? In terms of the context of the game, Mane's. Because I think if Mane's goes in,
I think it's the other way around. I would go. His best save was either Mane's or from Jota, and the key was the game was over after Mo's genius that didn't go in.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I think if one goes in the first half, I think we end up rattling up 2-3.
Yeah, me too.
So that's what I'm saying. The Mane one for me, because the Mo one is kind of he catches it, but if Mo catches that any quicker, Courtois not getting that, and that's 1-0 within the first 10 minutes.
No, but he hammered it. It was. No.
In the first half. In the first half.
Oh,
in the first half.
In the first half. What Jesse pointed out. Here's my boy. Right, the curly mean.
No, in the first half
where he has to Courtois going the other way, and then he has to dive backwards.
Trent pulls it across the 6-yard box, and Mo comes in front
where it was behind Mo.
Yeah.
So
if that's he could have hit it better, right? But it's not an amazing save because the pace on it isn't great.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's an impossible shot. You're just blocking the cross and hoping the angle goes where you want it.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, Mo in November probably sticks that in. You know what I mean? He was flying off it. But I
don't think he could have done anything different. I think it was just a stab, and in the same way that we were lucky with, they were lucky with where the blocks of Courtois' arm sent the ball. I think we were just unlucky with where the block of Salah's foot ended up because it was behind him. He couldn't swing or direct it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you follow up with the Mane ones literally 5 minutes after that, which I mean, it's weird. On the time, I'm thinking, wow, that's a hell of a save. But I actually think Mane could put it in the corner more. That sounds really harsh, but he's got the goal to aim at.
Well, it couldn't have gone in the corner anymore, could he?
No, it's not. It's not in the corner when he hits it. It's not. Oh. If you rewatch it, and that's I'm incredibly harsh.
That's side netting though.
Yeah, I just when he's got the goal to aim at.
Yeah,
it's like, and he's still put it in an area where the keeper could save it, right? Whereas he's got no one in front of him.
Keepers could save it.
He was. I know. Yeah, picking up. I was just thinking that's
a full stretch.
That was
it. Fotmov gave it 0.2 post shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was savable, but I thought it was awesome. Dan? What do you think? What was the best shot? Best save?
I thought the context is key, but I think the best save is from Mo's right-footed shot in the second half, just because of the pace that it's hit at. It's going in the side netting. It's complete reaction save, and I think there's a bit more element of fortune. It's at point blank range. It's a bit more element of fortune to that save, though. I think
it was more of an alley save. That.
Yeah. What made it
being in the right spot, making himself impossible to get the ball back.
Are we talking on 63, the bender or the blaster?
No. The bend.
Blaster.
No, the amazing touch in the right foot.
Yeah. Because the bender,
I think crazy though. I think the Jota, Opta gave Mo a big chance created, and Jota a big chance missed.
Yeah,
the shot which actually was going in the far corner.
Yeah,
and he just deflected it. I'm not even sure he meant to. I think he was trying to get out of the way, and it just hit his foot.
Yeah,
but that was an unbelievable reaction because it was going far. It was going far post. Courtois was going to try to save it, and he had to rejig his feet and get down to the opposite side to save. Unbelievable.
I mean, that's the one that was 0.29 post shot 0.84, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think that's another example for me that we're just not going to score. The guy is
84 save.
Yeah, Jota's hit. It's come off Jota. He's going the wrong way, and he still saves it.
Some idiots on Twitter, Si, I saw that on a thread that you posted, suggesting that Salah could have put it a bit further in the corner, the one that he blamed. On Yscout, it was 0.47 XG shot value, 0.78 post shot.
Yeah.
So he's literally improved it by close to 50%, so they can absolutely shut the.
And if you look at the Mo goal that he didn't get, like he blammed that was going right in off the post.
Far corner, yeah.
But I get that he didn't put it in the top corner, which he could have done. But Courtois wasn't even extended. His arm was still slightly bent. He'd have got the top corner.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. He was just unbelievable. And he was totally the difference.
He was, but the thing that was annoying with that save side as well is Mane's unmarked. So Courtois basically saves the ball into an area. Like, do you know what I mean? It could have gone any other type of save, and Mane's tapping that in. I mean,
it was so tough.
It was like, how have you done that? You know, he just was man possessed. I have to say, it was unfortunate, but you can't fault the process.
For context, we're talking about shot. We're talking about an unbelievable goalkeeper performance here. There's been others. We've had the 3 finals. I was going to save this till the end, but I think it's worth it now because we're talking about how we didn't score in this one game is incredible. But Phil, you've called in a favour. It's going to cost you a pint of lunch.
Yeah.
But you've run a Monte Carlo inputting all the shot values of all the shots we've had in the 3 finals. Go on, do you want to explain 1, what it is, and then 2, what the chances were that we scored 0 goals from the 3 finals?
So I put it in the live show chat for you all, but Monte Carlo, we've run it before. It's one of Darth's favourites, but it's you basically simulate up to a set number. So for this simulation, we did 10,000 times of and you take into account the probability of those goals and how many times they would score, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So we've taken into account all the probabilities of the 58 shots. Was it, Rhodesy? Is that right? In total across the 3 finals?
58 shots, 8 big chances.
Yeah. So therefore, out of those 58, they've all got a probability. You put it in the Monte Carlo, you run it for 10,000 times simulation, and it gives you out a frequency of the number of times goals will be scored with that. Yeah. And just to give you a little bit more context, I was talking to my mate doing it while we were sharing the screen because my SPSS broke, so I had to get him to do it for me. And we started off running it for 1,000 times, and it came up that there was no opportunities where you would have scored no goals from that amount of probability. Yeah. So we then ran it 10,000 to see, well, that's the next number on to see what it would come up with. And there's only 3 occasions in 10,000 times you can sim that amount of XG and not score a goal. So, and the remarkable thing that Rhodesy pointed out was it's more likely would have scored 15 goals in 10,000 simulations than to score none. And the one, if you can see the graph, and I've put the frequency table in for you as well, in terms of the simulation is doing it 10,000 times, we should have scored between 6 and 7 goals. With your next one being 8. So
it's reasonable, isn't it? Which is and the beauty of this is it also ties in with the XG. So the XG was around 7 as well.
Exactly.
Just a lovely contrast between what the XG was, the chances, and then how big of an outlier is, because Dan puts his fancy stats terms in the group. How big of an outlier is 0, mate?
Sigma 4, which is like, it's an outlier that I've said Darth is. I haven't seen it. My mate was like, he was so shocked at how much of an outlier this is. This is extreme outliers we're talking about. He was just, and he was busy before he ran this for me. He's a Tottenham fan, right? So before he ran this, he was like usual kind of football banter. Then he ran the numbers and he was like, I don't know, he's not won that game. He just couldn't understand how he didn't score in 3 finals. He was just sat there going, but he wouldn't until he ran this. This is a great thing about doing this Monte Carlo. The great shout from you is that it sort of gives you a context about actually the Courtois performance was that good, and the process was right. We did create the amount of XG to win the finals. We just didn't quite put the ball in the back of the net, or randomness happened in those finals. And our mate was like, "That's just absolutely unbelievable. He didn't score." He was like, "I can't believe he didn't score at least a goal of final at least." So yeah, but that gives you a goal of final at least. He was like, it was just unbelievable. He's just never seen outliers that low, if you like. It's just crazy. And to have to go to 10,000 simulations to get naught to even appear is quite something as well, because you'd normally get something on 1,000, you just run it for a bit more to get a bit, a bit more data cred. So anyway, that's small black box stats for you, but there you go. Gives you an understanding, feeds into the picture.
It does. Si, any thoughts on that before we move on to their goal?
It just fits what it feels like. It's utter madness. We talk about randomness all the time, about the randomness of stuff more than most. It was incredibly random, but over 3 games, because it's not a massive sample, despite 54 shots, like the randomness just can be caused by playing against 2 utterly brilliant goalkeepers, and Mendy was brilliant in one of those finals as well. So Ederson's never brilliant because he's a tosser and he's not actually that good. But unbelievable.
Right, so the goal, and I think we'll start with a brilliant a phrase that anyone who's listened to UPoo for years will understand, and it's the Lallana press. So, Si, do you want to start us off with the Lallana press?
So we were behind. So we got the toss of the coin, and Hendo attacked our end in the second half. So we got attacking the Kop. We're very excited by this prospect, and I legitimately, Jesse was sat right in the middle of the goal. It was an unbelievable view. It was like watching FIFA from the perfect vantage point. And once we're attacking our half, we got such a great view of the flow of the game and the positional play and the interchange and the rotations and the pattern. And I think it stemmed from, if you roll back 30 seconds or so, there were interchange of throw-ins down their left back side. So the game had pulled over that side. And Diaz came a little bit further than maybe he should. But they, Mo and Mane pressed. But Diaz came over to block the outlet pass into Carvajal. He missed it. Carvajal ran past him. Diaz kind of started to jog back. Play progressed over in the right-hand side for another 10 seconds or so, getting towards the halfway line. And Modric received the ball. Robbo popped out to go and chase Modric. Modric did like 3 feints. He properly enticed him in. At this point, I went to Jesse, oh no. I could feel that it was coming. And Diaz, by this stage, also looked knackered, absolutely knackered. He was doing that thing where you're sprinting, but you're actually just looking down at your feet to see how fast they're going. And he got back to the halfway line, which was 15 meters short of where Valverde was. He turned, faced up play. He kind of half got in between Modric and Cruz, I think, to kind of block the pass loosely towards Valverde if it had gone from that direction, but it didn't. Valverde got played into space. No one was tracking him. There was a moment where he literally looked up and there was a look on his face of, shit, how am I got this much space? Where's Robbo? And he was like, oh, I'm off. And you could see there were this look on his face, and he looked up surprised, then smiled and turned and ran into that space, which made Virgil cut across. Canate then came across, which I didn't think he probably should have done because there was no other threat other than Benzema. Like, the space can't score, but I would trust that Virgil can hold Valverde on his own. You don't need to double bank him. But he came across a little bit anyway, which Benzema instantly knew. He pulled towards Trent, which made Trent pull over a little bit tighter. Yeah. They got into goal, and Valverde, I'm fairly sure, had a shot.
That was shot.
Yeah, he just scuffed the shot. And that scuffed shot went pretty much through the legs of the offside Benzema, and ended up with Vinny at the far post in 3 meters of space to tap in because Ali was front post marking in the way of the supposed Benzema shot.
So if it does flick off Benzema, is that offside?
Yeah. Yeah, it's offside. I mean, someone makes a great point before, like on, I think it was on your Twitter side, where he's actually interfering play. Because he is there, he's forced Ali to not be more central. If you look at the image I put in the chat, that's Valverde taking a shot. That isn't a cross. That's not a shape to cross. The only way, I can't believe Trent was getting absolutely pillared for this. Like one mistake, not even a mistake in a game, when Robbo's the main culprit for this. But it also caused our midfield to shuffle over. So Hendo's pulled all the way over when he probably should have been around in the space here on the edge of the 18 where Cruz is coming into, which probably would allow Trent to have a bit more, not worry about Cruz coming in as a late runner. It's just all, because I agree, Si spoke to it beautifully, but Diaz being knackered, he couldn't come back and go with the runner, which would have meant a 2.5 staying where normally went, and Trent would have been over. Fab wouldn't have had to go over. Would have been in shape. But it's just Diaz being tired, Robbo doing a lala. Yeah, it just happened, and again, the way in which that fell to Vinny is pure. I mean, luck's harsh, but he's shooting. He's not meaning to cross that ball. I mean, I've heard some people on pod saying it was a lovely shaped cross towards the back stones.
It was a shot.
It was a shot. It was a shot. And if you really want to do slow mo, look at flick off Benzema's foot. So I just, it's one of those.
Opta gave him a shot.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying there's a little, you could say there's a little bit of contact. Could Trent be better? I don't know. I think Trent was good. I
honestly don't know what Trent should have done right. The way we defend, so this goes to the tactic.
His shape's good there. His shape is really good.
But tactically, the things they did, it changed throughout the game, but it's the things they do all the time. So you're right about 4-1-4-1, but it's a compact 4-1-4-1 as soon as they regain possession. Yeah, Valverde and Vinny go literally stand on touch lines.
Yeah, they go 4-3-3. Yeah,
but no, it's not just 4-3-3. We play 4-3-3, but we play 4-3-3 in the area of the penalty box. So we don't even bother. Our wide players don't bother using the 10 meters of space either side of the penalty box.
They go wide
in the penalty box, and when we're not playing well, they're even tighter than that. Yeah. It's not an analogy. I'm not exaggerating. They go and get white on their boots. They literally stand on the touchline either side.
Yeah, they go high and wide.
So weak side, strong side, doesn't matter. They go and do the exact same thing. They're the furthest point from one another you can be horizontally across the pitch. That causes all sorts of issues with a defense who defend compact. So we defend 3 meters from one another. We're always compact. The reason that that Vinny was in the way he was we defend in half a pitch horizontally. So when I said that there were throw-ins down the left-hand side, the whole of our team were over towards the halfway point of the pitch from the right, and they moved us towards the left, then quickly towards the right, as if they were going to go down there, towards our right, as if they were going to play in Vinny, but they didn't. They recycled it back down their right-hand side, so we had to move right, left, not get quite back in left, but we weren't in a position to get back to cover Vinny either. It was really, really smart what they were doing, and it was because they pinned their wingers so wide, it requires us to double bank and to get Mo or Mane back, or the 8s, which we did brilliantly in the first half to completely nullify Vinny.
I think also, do you think, Si, they went a bit more, I think they went higher and wider earlier in the second half. Like they came out and weren't as 4-1-4-1, if you get what I mean. I think they were a bit
just had the ball more.
Yeah, maybe.
When they had possession, they were touching the touchline.
Yeah.
Had possession much in the first half.
Yeah. But
I was staggered that the UEFA gave them 50-50. Yeah, it said possession was 50-50. When we had 110 shots more, 120 touches more than they did, I think, at one point.
Yeah, we had.
So it should have been 54%, 46, but they gave it 50-50.
We had 794 touches.
Websites as well.
Well, we had 794 touches. They had 705.
Right, so, I had 670, I think.
Yeah. So,
but either way, it was more.
Yeah, we have more. Yeah. We had more volume. I mean, passing, we had 592. I've got, and they had 514. So
it's 80 touches. 80 passes different.
Yeah. Final third, we had 249. They had 110. passes though. So again, more.
It might be the biggest, most important statistic of the game, apart from obviously that they scored and we didn't, was that we had 5 clearances. They had 20 inside the box. 20 clearances is phenomenal. Militao, Carvajal, and Casemiro were absolutely unbelievable.
But they also helped out Carvalho, didn't they? They dropped in. I've forgotten his bloody name now. The wide right was helping out. Yeah, so he was helping out with Diaz, wasn't he? So they had 2 on Diaz at some point. But because Diaz was tired, he couldn't shift that ball back into the centre and then go out the other side.
I thought it was his worst game for us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, his receiving rate was down at 74%, which is really bad for Diaz. Normally,
but there were lots of opportunities where we'd switched. He got play to face up 1-on-1.
Yeah, he did do it,
and he didn't.
No,
and in the second half, he had one against Modric.
Yeah, he stood him up and didn't go, did he?
He's 59, dude. He needs to sit down on his rocking chair, and you didn't go past him. What are you doing?
And also, we say about this quite a lot, but Carvajal booked early or late first half, early second half, and there was a couple of times that on the break, Diaz could just stand him up, take him on, and try and draw the foul. Didn't. He just let him. It just seemed to. I think you said he should have gone at half time. I think that's probably not far off. Diaz should have come off.
We forget how inexperienced he is, and I think he was done by the occasion. I wonder, again, going back to that human thing. I don't know what you think, Dan. That he's Colombian. Real Madrid are the biggest thing in the Latin world.
Yeah. Very much so.
Very much so.
Got to be daunting.
Absolutely. He looked daunted. He played daunted. He played like he was kind of starstruck, didn't he?
Yeah, and the thing about him, I hate that I'm a critic of his at all, because I don't mean to be, and I don't doubt his brilliance, and I think he's going to be a wonderful player for us. I didn't get carried away by the dream state everybody else did. The fantasy that he brings, the lack of inhibition that he seems to have been playing with, that gone. He looked very inhibited. Apart from, there was one moment, like 35 minutes at left back, where he played a back heel to Thiago after making a tackle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why aren't you doing that in the final third?
Yeah. He looked very subdued.
It was a weird game, and I think sadly it should have been our strength. Diaz against Carvajal. Carvajal was brilliant, but not in one-on-ones. He was just brilliant at clearing crosses and getting in blocks and getting his toe in. And he was actually really, really good at retaining possession. But Diaz, in the thing we expect from him, the flowing, go and beat a man, he only attempted one. He only got one dribble in the whole game.
Yeah, I think also I've never seen Thiago ever hit that many passes into that channel.
There were a couple in the game for sure,
and I don't know whether that's something to do with what he was carrying. But
also there were a couple of moments. This sounds like down on Diaz, and I don't think he's the reason we did at all.
No, not at all.
I think there was 2 passes where he'd made that looked bad. One of which was because Diaz just stopped running. And Mane played another one, and he had just stopped running before. I just think we don't grasp, right, because he plays for Liverpool, and he joined Liverpool in February, basically. The Liverpool fans aren't aware that he is 230% of his career average minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he is 120% more
Anybody who listens to this show
ever in his life. At the most intense level he's ever played at as well. He was just out on his feet.
He was, yeah.
He was.
So does the context of the amount of minutes he's played, the length of this season, the amount of travelling he's done, does that then contribute to the intangibles such as letting the starstruck nature of coming up against a team that a lot of people around him in his family and in his area will probably idolise? Let's be honest about that. I think quite a few of them have turned to Liverpool fans recently, but for his whole life, or the footballing culture will probably think that Real Madrid are the best team in the world and the team to. Does that kind of get into you? Because I know it's an intangible, but starstruckness is not something we've really discussed as a pod before.
It's not, but alongside the physiological and physical fatigue, he signed for one of the biggest clubs in the world. This season was like a season he's never had before. From the first half at Porto, he'd never played like this. Suddenly he was a star in Europe. And then he got a massive transfer, of which his poorest family suddenly got generational wealth. And he moved to a cold country he'd never been to before. He got like the excitement and the glory of playing for Liverpool, winning competitions. Yeah. And then the psychological stresses, not negative, just there's still stresses. Of playing in a final.
Positive adrenaline stresses are still stresses, aren't they?
Yeah, but you know, like Klopp used to say that we used to play the occasion, not the match.
Yeah.
And I think Diaz might have been a situation where he hasn't learned to play the match, and he was playing the occasion.
Well, you don't get to learn until you've experienced it.
Exactly, and I'm not knocking him because I'm not, right? It happens. He's a young player. If CJ started in midfield, he might have had the same problem, right?
I heard something about, right, the other day, the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life is the worst thing that ever happened in your life, right? So the context of that is, for a kid, we talk about snowflake kids and whatever.
Yeah.
But if we've protected them and the worst thing that ever happened was that they didn't get the chocolate on a Friday afternoon at school that the other kid got, they still get the same physiological from falling from a tree and breaking their arm that they would do if that was the worst thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't get the pain.
Yeah.
Absolute.
You can't contextualize.
It's relative. It's relative.
Exactly. So he will have felt the stress and the pressure that he'd never felt ever in context in his life before. It was such a big moment.
So here's one for you. I agree with all of that, by the way, but you've often said, Jurgen's got out-tacticked. Do you think he got the tactics wrong? He got the subs wrong in this? Knowing that he knows the players.
I think he's sub late. I think he's sub too late. That was all.
Are you hosting, Phil?
I think he just sub too late.
But so sorry, Rhodes. I was just saying, but it was just whilst I was talking about that, it was like Jurgen knows his players, he knows his humans, and yet he's left a boy out there who clearly isn't having the best game until 71 minutes. I can't remember when it came off, but
yeah.
And Naby and Firmino probably played pretty well when they came on, but they can't do it like in 15 minutes.
What do you think?
Especially against the that was going on. I thought the Henderson sub was too late.
Yeah, I thought Hendo was too late. But then I probably, having said at the beginning that I understood Naby started, there's also a part of me that I would have gone for it. Because I would have thought, technically, having three best midfielders on at your peak energy levels, I think we might have blown them away. But that's me. I know, and I get that, and I know that's not being human. I know Hender's the captain of the club. I get all of that. But then bringing Naby on 15 to go, it was kind of like, because for me, Target was done at half time. I didn't think he had much to do in the second half. I would have taken him. It's just, I thought the subs were very late. Bearing in mind, he knew how Thiago's fitness was. And he would have seen Diaz not having a great game. I think they were two prime suspects to come up earlier.
Just to counter that, Phil, didn't we have some of our best opportunities or kind of a volume of opportunities between like 54 and 75? I think we had like 10 shots again. Is he not thinking, okay, it's still working? Maybe I should be bringing Diaz off. Maybe I should be bringing Henderson off here. But if we're creating these shots, and I don't know. I don't know what's Si. What do you think? What do you think is going through his mind, and why do you think he left it as late as what we're talking about?
If we're talking about what we think Klopp was thinking, as opposed to what I'd have done. Yeah, sorry, I've got. Oh man, it's not coming off. There we go. So in that period that you're talking about, right, from their goal to actually making the substitution, that they had no touches in that. They had no interest in getting into the game. and we weren't really building an awful lot, but we'd had a fab shot. It was actually all one phase. So the only possible scored from the Fab had a shot blocked, and then that crossed the back post to Jota's header, and then the unbelievable scramble across the goal to block Mo's on the goal line finish. So it felt like it might be coming. We'd had a couple of corners. We had all of the ball. It was kind of figuring out what they were going to do tactically in response to them giving up a goal, because they'd not actually been ahead pretty much in the whole of the Champions League. So it wasn't like we had lots of data and video on them, because it only happens. So there's a possible of that, but I expected him to gamble way earlier than he did.
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought the Diaz one was obvious. I thought the Diaz one was really obvious, and then, like you said, maybe at half-time, maybe he should see his face and see, maybe just have a chat with him and see.
I know these are intangibles, Rose, and I get that, but I mean, I've put my usual passing graphs in the rest of it. That period there, 46 to the first sub, is our lowest passes per minute and touches per minute, and they scored in that period. And if you look at your XG bubbles as well, like that's that's the smallest bubble for us. It's just little things like that. If you look at that and you go, that period there, and I did a Real Madrid one especially for this half as well, which doesn't really change much. So that period there we're talking about, one of their highest in terms of final third passes. In that period they scored because they were in our box. After that, as I said, they weren't bothered. They just shut off. They got the lowest 2 periods of time in terms of touches and passes. So yeah, for me it was, I think we missed a moment. I think, but then again, it comes back to Robert doesn't do that press. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So you never know.
There is always the debate, right? I listen to post-match Raw, and it's hard, like it's just after the game, so it's what they.
Of course it is. Yeah.
But they were basically saying, Dave, who talks obviously very well and matching, they were talking that we didn't gamble enough. We had a lot of possession in the first half without ever getting the extra runner from midfield, without ever committing both fullbacks. Yeah. And I thought that actually that was the reason why Real created absolutely nothing, because tactically we were perfect. We did all of the stuff to control the game. Yeah. And it was only when one of our fullbacks went forward at the wrong time that they got to score.
Yeah.
So and I just think it's possible. Again, it's the human thing. Like a couple of times I looked up and went, Jesus Christ, is it already 70 minutes?
Yeah.
And I wonder if there was a moment where Klopp just went, oh my God, we're already there.
The game gets away from you really quickly when you're losing.
And I've sat in dugouts and on benches with a couple of famous coaches, one of which is incredibly famous in the world, and I've seen them do that exact thing, just miss clock management. They got so involved in what was going on this specific moment to moment in the game, they missed the grand ticking clock in their brain, and that's what makes a great man. Like we see clocks in alongside the pitch these days, so you can always just look up. But the great part of a quality of a great manager is them knowing exactly when in the game they are from a time perspective, and being able to field the rhythm. So we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Bart's remembered the name of the dynamic systems theory, and it's understanding, though we call them moments in game, but it's dynamic systems theory. When something happens and you know something else as a response to that thing, it's the feeling of what's going to happen. And Klopp is usually brilliant at this. And this season he's been amazing at it. We have the most from subs of anybody in the league and all that stuff. And I think he just missed the moment.
I think you're right, Si. I think he was probably waiting to see if the system would go back to it. Right. Robert makes an error. He's pissed off at him first instance, because you are going to be as a coach. He's going to be like, what the hell are you doing? He's then sitting there giving the boys 5 minutes to get the system back to normal. See if we start creating chances again. 5 minutes turns into 10. and then you're approaching the 70s, like, oh my God, we've got to make changes. But the game's gone.
Is there a case, it's just been mentioned in the live chat, that Firmino should have started? Would that, what would that have offered differently, or is this hindsight bias? I know a lot of people the game, but do you think that would have worked better? Because I hate commenting afterwards, because I would have gone with the front three that we did play. But once you saw it developing, especially in periods in the second half, I thought he might have offered more. Too similar, Diaz and Mane.
I think Mo is better when Bobby's playing.
Absolutely, it doesn't have to play the creator role, right?
You just get the better Mo when he's playing.
I mean, to be fair to Mane,
he isn't Bobby.
He's not Bobby.
He did a very nice thing when he came on. I thought he did some really nice things, but he's not Bobby. I don't care what his goal and assist record is. He isn't Bobby. No, he isn't the guy we think he's going to be when he comes. He's not that guy anymore.
No. That's exactly my opinion, and we discussed it in detail last season, and his minutes this season is confirmation of it's a definite decline. But maybe for this game, is he getting a little bit fresher? Would it? What more could we have brought out of Mosai?
Yeah, exactly. What could we have done differently with Mo? He got 6 shots on target. He turned I think 0.69 xG into 1.9 post shot.
What exactly?
I don't know. Pulling the defenders away from him, Mane. I don't know. Mane received the ball.
Mane did a decent job.
He did. No, I was
a big critic of him playing as the 9, and I thought he did a decent job.
He did for this game. 81% receiving. He completed 35 passes. He received 14 progressive passes. That's some of his best stats of the season as a 9.
But he
did really well.
The thing with Mane, he did it early. He made one incisive pass, which Diaz didn't read and he'd stopped.
Yeah,
that is the one thing we miss when Bobby's not. Is that Mane is much less likely to make the killer pass. That Bobby, and I don't know if Bobby does anymore. But is still part of our collective memory of him that he will. But he doesn't, if we're actually all honest about it. But he's probably still more likely to.
Well, he did it for Robbo's goal against Wolves. That was Bobby's incisive passing. Yeah, he played Jota in this game. He played a 1-2 to get.
He was great when he came on.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he was very small spells. But you're right. Mane is more likely, I think, to take the dribble on and have a shot himself in the box than find an incisive pass.
Yeah, they were knackered at the end of the game. They did 109. We did 100.
Yeah, and we just didn't have that gear, which is why I think
Hendo did 6.5 in the first half. He was balls out. He needed to come off early because he was knackered.
I'm just going to say, Hendo, right? People have been having a go at him for whatever, but he's passing 83% pass completion, 69 passes. They're pretty all right. Not bad stats.
He was, really. You know what? In the ground, I thought he was man of the match. At 60 minutes, I thought he'd been our best player. It felt like it. There's a weird thing about some of the fans that they basically sing Bobby, Robbo, and Hendo without the ground picking up those songs, but there are big pockets of the cop that sing those names incessantly, whilst Mane and Mo don't get songs, which is
weird.
A weird phenomenon, right? But I genuinely thought Hendo was brilliant, and then I came home and watched it on TV, and relatively how passive he was in possession. And how he gave the ball away in inappropriate times, causing us stressors. It really surprised me because I really thought he'd played really well. Without possession, he was phenomenal. With possession, he really wasn't.
And probably a key stat that he was lower than the other midfielders. His final third passes for our progressive right 8 needs to be higher than the others, I would say, and he was the lowest. Yeah. He only had 4. Compared to Fab playing the 6 had 9, and Thiago playing left 8 had 10, and Navi managed 2 in 13 minutes.
Well, Fab had 2.5 times the progressive meter.
Yeah, Hendo. Yeah, which backs up what you're saying, isn't it? Off the ball, Hendo was brilliant. But on the ball, when we need him to do the stuff that the right 8 stuff is, he didn't do it.
Yeah. But so Hendo had a -6 possession control. Fab had a 9, positive 9 possession control. Just while we're going through numbers, right? Had the most progressive meters.
Who did Fab, sorry?
And he had the highest possession win value as well.
Yeah.
So he won 14.5% of all the possession that we had in.
In terms of ball carrying distance, Fab had 355 compared to he was a top, and that's quite a stat compared to Henderson was 185, so he wasn't even half.
They allowed, to be fair, they allowed Fab the possession. That was where they went man for man on everybody else, and let Fab be our main progressor because they could block off his
passing lanes
out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was quite smart, but saying that it was quite smart, we still should have killed them. We still did all of the stuff which should have killed them if it wasn't for the greatest goalkeeping performance in Champions League history.
My top 3 were Mo, Canate, Fab, and I know we've talked about Diaz and Henderson, but I think the player I was most frustrated with in this case, Trent. Obviously, he's my favourite.
I thought Trent was great.
I thought Trent was decent.
His delivery and some of his passing.
Yeah, but he put in 3 crosses that were out of his world.
He did, but for the standards that I think...
Yeah, I get what you mean, but isn't that a bit... I don't know what that's called. There's a term for that where you're... To put it in the context of the game, right? He was focusing on having Vinny defending him. He did really well against that.
He did brilliantly.
It was unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying to you.
It was on the ball,
Yeah, right. But one of the balls he puts to the back post of Diaz, honestly, if that's Jota, that's 1-0. Like in the second half or 1-0. It was a beautiful ball.
Carlo got in on it.
Yeah, but that should have been in the net or on target. And Diaz, we know, isn't great in the air, so he misses it. So, and there was 2 others in the first half. The ball he puts across 6-yard box between Alaba and Mendy to find Mo for that it was slightly behind it, but the shot on 16 minutes, great balls. He's a really good player. I'm not saying he was brilliant, but I don't think he was one of our.
There were 3 switches he played.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Absolute filth.
Yes,
with the fade on them, with the fade and the drop in, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Maybe. If we'd have scored, if Thiago had scored the header, like
the front post flick.
Thiago Trent doesn't do anything else, and he's man of the match.
Yeah. And to be fair, Thiago should get on that. He knows the pattern of play. He knows that cross is going there. He just throws himself at it. It goes in.
But the thing is, to be fair to him, right, as a footballer, the worst height of cross that you can get is belly button height.
Yeah.
Because it's above volley level and it's below head height. So you have to turn it into a diving header.
Yeah, no, I know.
Jota would have just tucked it away.
Yeah. What about
it's more of that bad luck of the wrong.
You know the one was it second half where I think it's Jota has a shot and it comes across a Mo and it's an open goal.
Yeah.
Is Mo a bit slow there? I'm thinking Mo just should get there earlier and put it in the empty net. That might sound incredibly harsh, but there is an empty net there.
I don't know. I'm never going to doubt.
Because he waits for it. But he waits for it to come down. What I'm saying, he waits for it to come down to his foot. I don't know. It's just little things where you think.
I think if he goes to header out, he's going to smash his face on the post, isn't he?
No, because maybe I don't know. It's just looking at. You look at ultimately, Courtois says another one where you shouldn't have done.
I also think it's an almost impossible angle, right? So if you're weighing up like the mechanics of get your foot to that position to be able to tuck it into that tiniest of windows, he was just trying to get the most control, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Nah.
Anyway, boys, what have you got? Anything else before we finish? Because I think it's been a superb pod, especially the first half an hour with the thing. But I think we've broken it down, and I think with Under Pressure, one of the best things is we do it sometimes 3 days later, and you've got time to think, and you've got time to analyse things, and you've got time to run Monte Carlo simulations for a pint, and it gives you time to reflect on it. Have you got anything else?
No, it's just same reason as I said to you when we did the preview. The stats made me feel better, made me feel more confident, right? And what you just said, the reflection and looking at the numbers made me feel better about our performance. Like, I was disappointed we didn't win, but having looked at the numbers, taking it away, re-looking at it again, I'm like, we didn't do a lot wrong. And like, if we'd won that game 2-0, people would not have been like dead or gone. That had been one of the most comprehensive Champions League wins I've ever seen.
Yeah,
If we won it 1-0, like if the score had been completely around the other way, people would have been like that. That was an outstanding performance for Liverpool. It just happens. One moment, our fullback does a learner, and they nick it 1-0.
And they've also got one of the best goalkeepers.
And the goalkeeper pulls off an absolute worldie. But yeah, so I just
go on, mate. So I just thought this was something interesting that you said. I might have said it on the. You said that there was a feeling with fans that even had we won, there wasn't a lot of. There was a kind of a drop off in the energy of the fans, and it wasn't, you know, win or lose. There was more important things that happened that night.
It's impossible to talk about. Like, we witnessed. I felt how the atmosphere had completely changed, and as soon as Benzema had his goal disallowed, it sucked the air out of the crowd. The only time the crowd got back into it was when there was something to be angry about against UEFA. There was like fuck you, like the fuck Tories chant became fuck UEFA, and that was the focus of the fans by that stage. There was a feeling of disbelief. I don't know how to feel about this. It felt so emotional, like it was not in the way I've been at ground, and it felt like it was a tinderbox. Anything could have started this riot. Not that we were going to fight anybody, but do you know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
This was not that. This felt like anything happened, start crying, and it was just a horrible feeling. Nobody cared about it by the end of it. We just walked out. We were good from a general sense of this is that day, but the focus was on let's get out of here and not get stabbed by the locals or police. We were like, yeah, we lost. And that's how it felt. I don't know if I do know for sure, 85 minutes, there was no way we were cheering at a victory at that point. Once those machine gun soldiers, police came out, there was no turning that into a happy place.
Yeah.
So we could never have recovered a goal at that point. It couldn't have, because we were barely watching the game.
Such an important contextual point. This I have no idea what it could ever feel like, and especially when you're with your young son, and there were people that might not have even got in. And like Hamza says, if you're just more worried about your kids have even got in, or your friends have got in, players might have even been worried about their families. I think there was more important things happened in this than the result of a match, and we will come back. Dan will be back. We might do a pressing pod if there's any stories in there, but we will definitely be doing a season review, and we can talk about whether it was a successful season and all that. But really appreciate your thoughts, boys, especially those at the start side. Really did paint a picture that a lot of us needed to hear, the details of it. And also, I think the stuff that you enjoyed. That
was important.
The stuff in Paris with the scooters, and and that excitement that you're supposed to have. That's what it should be about. It should be about kids, 15-year-olds, 14, 15-year-olds going to the first ever Champions League final.
Inspiring a generation.
Having that, yeah, you're just selling the next generation, and they'll be going to the years. And the fact that this is one that they've had to experience makes me sick to my core, and fingers crossed that something happens, because it's an absolute disgrace. So yeah, cheers, boys.
Pleasure.
Good job, dudes.
And we will be back for the season review. Up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.